Hello, my name is Aviva and welcome to another reading vlog. So in case you couldn't already tell from the thumbnail or the description of this video, I'll be reading Thrive and Addicted After All, which is the 6th and the 7th book in the Addicted/Calloway sister series. This is actually my third vlog for this series. I've decided to split up all 10 books into 5 different vlogs. So in the first vlog, I read Lily and Lo's story, which was Addicted to You, Ricochet, and then Addicted for Now. And then I jumped to Connor and Rose's story and then Daisy and Reich's story for my second vlog, where I read Kiss the Sky and then Hothouse Flower. And basically this is my third vlog, and now we are up to Thrive and Addicted After All, which we're basically jumping back into Lily and Lo's story, continuing on with the world. So I am loving this series so far, but I feel like I should just mention right now that this vlog, as well as all of the vlogs that I've made so far for this series, is going to be very spoilery. So, watch this at your own risk, whatever you're doing, I don't care, but I will be spoiling a lot of things. It's obviously very hard to keep anything in, especially because I'm like 6 books into a 10-book series. So like, how can I hold anything back? But my point is you've been warned, and basically we're going to be reading Thrive first. So I am very excited to, continue on and go back into Lily and Lo's perspective, because they were originally like my absolute favorite. Like I definitely like them more than Connor and Rose, but then I just finished Daisy and Reich's story and I'm pretty sure that they're my favorite. And now that I had like so much Reich and Daisy, I don't know if I want to jump back into Lily and Lo. Like I just want to keep reading Daisy and Reich, but I am very excited to see where this goes and be back in their perspectives, because honestly, like they are like the OG couple and I love them to freaking death. I'm also really happy to, see where this story is going to go, because we left off with Hothouse Flower of, now they're all going to be living with each other. Like again, well, they were living with each other for like Kiss the Sky, but that was for like a completely different reason. But now they're actually living with each other because they all want to be living with each other. And Rose and Lily were pregnant at the end of Hothouse Flower. So I'm excited to see where we jump back in. Like, are they going to like time jump or anything? But basically, why am I even speculating? I should just get into reading and, I'll update you later. So bye.
The next day.
So now I feel kind of stupid because I thought that this book was going to, pick up where we left off at the end of Hothouse Flower. And we're backtracking and we're going to be re-seeing everything that happened in Kiss the Sky and Hothouse Flower just from Lily and Lo's point of view. So I'm currently 140 pages in, and I can't not like the book because I love seeing all of the characters, them interacting, like all of the banter between everybody is just what makes this series and all of these books so amazing. But I will admit that I'm not the biggest fan of repetition. Like I don't like when books repeat moments just from like other people's points of views, and therefore this is definitely not going to be my favorite book from this, 10-book collection. Only because while it's really awesome, we're kind of just like jumping like throughout 2 years and like just seeing different moments that's kind of like filling in the blanks for everything that was missing in the last 2 books that I read. So I'm not really complaining because I do like seeing, everything that's being filled in. Like I remember when we were like reading Kiss the Sky, like we kept seeing like Lily and Lo like making out in front of the camera, and we're like, oh, they keep getting it on sort of thing. And it's kind of explaining it in this book as to like why they're doing that. And I am excited to see like all of that background information because like, it's going to fill in a lot of blanks. But at the same time, I've decided like after the fact that Kiss the Sky was probably my least favorite book so far, only because I wasn't a huge fan of the whole like reality TV moments. Like I hated everything that happened in that book, like to the characters. Like it was fun that they were on a reality TV show, but like everything that happened at the end of the book with Scott and just like how it all played out, like I actually like hate that it happened to them. And I'm not so down to relive it and knowing what's going to happen. Like they keep kind of like pointing things out, and I'm like, yeah, like it's gonna happen. Like Lily was like in her room, like they were moving into the house, and she like saw this black box, like she was looking for cameras, and they're like, no, that's not a camera, that's just like a battery box. And I'm like, no, it's a fucking camera. And I'm like, like it was kind of like, it's annoying me like seeing it and knowing what's gonna happen, but at the same time, like whatever, it's still good. So basically I didn't expect this for some odd reason, even though I don't know why, because I'm pretty sure that this book is considered like a 4.5, not like book 5 or something like that, which means that like technically you can either read like Kiss the Sky and Hot House Flower, or you can read this book, like whatever. Basically the same stuff's happening. Why am I repeating myself? I didn't expect it. I'm liking it though, and whatever, I'm gonna keep reading it today. I actually didn't end up getting to read a lot yesterday because I wasn't feeling so good, and like I just wasn't down to like physically pick up a book and read. So that's why I'm only like 140 pages in, but I am hoping to still like somehow finish this book today. I don't see why I really can't. But I did want to share with you one moment that I thought was like, it was like so bittersweet. They were basically like at Comic-Con because like, you know, it was the beginning of like, you know, when the scandal came out, and basically like everybody wanted to get Lily out of the house. So they decided to bring her to Comic-Con, and she basically like texts Lo, like because they split up for a little bit. And she's like, this is the second best day of my life. The director just accidentally touched my pinky finger. And then like Lo smiles and texts her back like, what's the best day of your life? And then she quickly replies, the day I fell in love with you. And then in his head, he's like, I try to remember that day. I try to transport my mind back to that place. But for every warmth there is cold, and for every ounce of light there is blackness, and for every happy memory there is grief and pain. I can't remember that day without crawling through it all, so I open my eyes and let it drift away. It's okay, I'm going to make new best days with Lily Calloway. I can feel. And I'm just like, I don't know, for some reason I really liked that moment. But basically I love Lily and Lo, and even though I'm not loving the book because like we're repeating ourselves a little bit, I'm still enjoying, you know, hanging out with all the characters. So I'll update you guys when I have something else to tell you.
The next day.
So I finished this last night, and unfortunately I didn't love it. I thought that it was way too repetitive from like the previous 2 books. It was literally like 3/4 of this book were the exact same scenes that we had in the last 2 books, just mushed into one book. And then we were just seeing it from like Lily and Lo's point of view instead. So we got to see like, you know, stuff that was going on in their head. And while it was nice to see that, I thought that it was like, I don't feel like I got any new information. Like, okay, there were a couple of things that like I didn't really know, like when I was reading the last 2 books, and like this kind of filled in the blanks for me. But at the same time, I feel like all the information that I got that was new in this book could have somehow been told in the previous 2 books, and this one could have like totally been skipped. So this one was definitely like my least favorite so far, mostly because like I just can't stand repetitive books. Like, and this was just, it was basically like a carbon copy. It was like the previous 2 books mushed into one. And I also feel like if you didn't read the last 2 books, would you have even understood this book? Like, I feel like we were jumping from like, you know, important moment to important moment. And like, did it even have a perfect flow? I'm not sure, because like in my head, I was remembering exactly what happened in the last 2 books. So then just seeing it in like this book, it was more of like, we kind of got to jump from everything that happened in the last 2 books. Like we kind of just saw like the important moments in Lily and Lo's point of view. So it was like, it was more of like a fill in the blank sort of book, you know? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but basically it was fine, but it definitely wasn't my favorite. But I don't know, whatever. I don't really have much to say. Like, there isn't anything really too new that happened in this book. I mean, it was nice to see, you know, the background information of like why Lily and Lo were like getting it on so much. And also I did enjoy finding out exactly when and why Lo ended up like, you know, drinking again, like when he like broke his sobriety. Like there were a couple of moments that like, you know, it was nice to see, but I still think that like all of those moments that happened in this book could have somehow been like put into the other ones, and we could have like totally skipped this one. But with that said, there were a few moments that I wanted to share with you that I just thought were like, you know, really adorable spots. So on page 293, we were at like Rose and Connor's wedding, and Lily was having like a really hard time and whatever. And basically Lo is like, the world is never going to understand us, but it doesn't matter, Lil. We have each other, and I get your pain. I understand how badly it hurts. So I need you to block out the other people today, okay? They don't exist in our world. And then in her head, she's like, our world. And then she's like, do we have superpowers in our world? And he's like, yeah, but you're not invisible. And then she's like, what can I do then? He's like, fly with me. And then he's like, do you want to get lost in a palace? And she's like, yes. And then in her head, she's like, it's a good kind of yes, the best kind, one filled with 1,000 I love yous, the type of love that can make you fly. And then on page 348, we were at the moment when Lo was relapsing and they were in the hospital, and like Lily's sitting on like, the bed with him, and she's like, I just want you to know that if you leave this world, I won't be in it for much longer. And then he's like, Lil, I didn't, that wasn't my intention. I would never do that to you. And I just love how much like they're literally only like, trying to like be good for each other. Like it's probably like, not the healthiest thing, but I just love how much they live for each other. Like they're one person in like two different bodies, and I kind of like die for it. And then on page 466, it was the moment when Reich basically told Lo like he's gonna make a statement to the press to like, help their father out and like, clear his name and everything. And Lo finally says like, thank you. And like, he never says thank you to Reich, like they have a very weird relationship. And then in his head, he's like, without my brother, I wouldn't be sober. I'm not even sure I'd be alive. His decision to enter my life and never let go was one that saved me. No thank you will ever repay what he's given me, but it's all I have. And by the smile that begins to lighten his normally darkened face, something tells me that it's enough for him. I don't know why I really liked that moment, but I thought it was like a really cute quote that I wanted to share. But anyway, I'm going to be moving on to Addicted After All today. I'm actually feeling like really sick. I think I have a fever, so I'm going to be spending the day in bed, and hopefully I will get a lot of reading done. So I'll update you guys later when I have something to, share with you. But I am excited to read this book because I know that this is like Lily and Lo's like conclusion book, and I'm like so down to see them get their happily ever after.
2 days later.
So I'm pretty sure I updated you guys 2 days ago that I was starting this book. The thing is that right after I updated you guys, I ended up like taking a shower and spending the rest of my day in bed doing absolutely nothing. I literally was feeling so horrible that like I couldn't even read. I was like watching TV and just like wasting time on my phone and like literally like staring up at the ceiling, like waiting for like my sickness to just pass. I think I had like a really weird flu, and I'm still not feeling good, but like I'm finally out of bed, so that's saying something. But basically that was, I'm pretty sure, 2 days ago. Like honestly, when you're sick, just like time goes everywhere. But basically I'm pretty sure I started this book yesterday morning because while I was still really sick and I did spend the entire day in bed, I was at least feeling fine enough to actually read. So I read like 3/4 of this book yesterday, and then I finally finished it this morning. So I apologize that I didn't give you guys any updates. I totally could have, like while I was reading it. Like I had so much stuff to say, but I just wasn't feeling good enough to like actually open up my phone and like, tell you what I was thinking while I was reading it. So I figured now that I finished it, let's just go and rant for a little bit. So I loved this book. If you've been keeping up with all of my vlogs for this like entire Addicted / Calloway Sisters series thing, then you know that I'm pretty sure the end of me reading Daisy and Reich's story, I said that they were my favorite, and while I still very much love them, after reading this book of Lily and Lo, they have become my favorite, and I almost feel like I cheated on them by saying that for a second and a half, Daisy and Reich were my favorite, because I just love Lily and Lo. Like, I even feel bad that I thought that for a moment. Lily and Lo, they're just so freaking perfect. I love literally everything about them. And I think that I felt that way for a little bit only because we were just like not seeing their perspective for like 2 books in a row, and like I enjoyed Daisy and Reich more than I liked Rose and Connor, so then I was like, oh, they're my favorite. And I also really do like Daisy and Reich the most because I think that their story is the most normal. Like Lily and Lo, they're people dealing with addictions, and while they have an amazing, story on like by themselves, like they still have a lot of stuff going on. And then like Rose and Connor, they have like their own thing going on. Like they're 2 like different human beings altogether. But like Daisy and Reich, they're normal people who are just like, sucked into this world out of like, being related to these sort of people. But like they actually had a totally normal romance, and I think that's why I liked them the most in the moment, and I still absolutely love them. Like, don't get me wrong, but Lily and Lo are so much better because they're literally like 2 peas in a pod sort of thing. But why I think I did feel that way about, Daisy and Reich was because of how normal their story felt. Like it was just like reading a normal story. Like besides for the age gap romance, like everything was normal about them, you know what I mean? So basically that's, I think, why I felt that way. But let's get back on track here. Lily and Lo are perfection, and oh my god, do I love them. So this book was basically, I'm pretty sure it was like their conclusion book, because besides for the epilogue, this is the last time we're going to see their point of view. I'm almost positive, because the next two books are going to be Rose and Connor again, and then Daisy and Reich again, and then the epilogue, which is going to be like everybody in one. So I'm assuming that this was technically like their finale book, and it was so amazing. I really loved everything about this book. One thing that I do love about all the books in general is, even if we're just seeing like two people's point of views, we still somehow get everybody like fully. Like, I don't feel like I was missing out on anybody by just reading from like one person's POVs. Like, just because this was only a Lowe's book, like, it didn't mean that I didn't get enough of Reich and Daisy and like, you know, Rose and Connor. Like, I still felt like I got to know them so much more in these books, just because of like how much everybody banters and stuff like that. So whatever, basically I absolutely love this series. Again, I really do think that Thrive was just like a little bit of a hiccup. Like, I really didn't enjoy that book, but like, it's okay, because this one totally made up for it. Like, I can just read from this world like literally forever and not be bored. Like, just the fact that all 6 of these people are like such good friends, and like everything about them, it's just perfection. So I mean, what else happened in this book? I mean, we started out with, you know, 2 people being pregnant, and we ended with like, you know, 2 babies and a wedding. So it was really fun. We also got to meet Willow and Garrett, which I'm almost positive is the couple that's going to be in the Whatever It Takes duet. So I'm really excited to now read those 2 books. I did recently get them. I added them to my December TBR. So I am hoping to, you know, like work on those 2 books after I finish this series. But basically, I am excited to see the fact that like Willow is now back in the story, and like hopefully she'll show up a little bit in like, you know, the books before the epilogue end, only because like I'm intrigued with her, and like I want to see like what's up with all of that. But basically, I liked this book. I have literally 0 complaints, other than the fact that like it could have been double the length and I wouldn't have complained. But while I was sick in bed and I didn't want to update you guys, I did tab a bunch of spots, and I thought we'd go through them, see what I was thinking in the moment, and you know, yeah. So on page 161 is the moment when we found out that Reich actually didn't spend the entire day in Mexico with Connor and Lo trying to like hunt down cigars. They actually were looking for some chocolate cake for Daisy's birthday, and I thought that was the cutest freaking thing in the world. Like, the fact that they were like all the way in Mexico on vacation, and Reich spent the entire day trying to track down a piece of cake just to make his girlfriend happy. I mean, come on, what gets better than that? That's what I was saying also, of like how even though this was Lily and Lo's POV book, we still got to see such cute moments from the other couples that like I didn't feel like I was missing out just by seeing like Lily and Lo's point of view. Like, I could be seeing anybody's point of view, and I still feel like I'm like completely watching all 6 of them all the time. So then on page 163, we're still in the bar, and Lo basically asks Lily to dance with him, and in her head she's basically like, when we were younger, Lo was the one who taught me how to dance. He's always been able to move like no one is watching, like no one can harm him in this brief expanse of time. In his last year of college, before he was expelled, he refused to dance with me. Every single time he sat at the bar and said, "Dance by yourself," when I asked. It didn't used to be like that. And in my head, I'm just thinking like, I remember that moment in Addicted to You, and it's so crazy to see like all of the parallels that they brought back, and like seeing how everybody like changed so much in like the 4 years that like all of these like books took place. Like, it didn't just happen now. Like, there were so many moments in this book that I didn't even bother tabbing, where it was just like, you know, they used to be one way and now it's like you see how much they've changed, and it's just so amazing to like have followed their story. Like, I'm so deeply invested in these characters. Like, these people are so freaking real. I don't think I've ever read a book before where like, I don't know, these people are just, they're so freaking real. I can't even explain it, but whatever. Let's just get back to what I was saying, because I didn't even get to my point yet. But basically, it didn't always used to be like that. So seeing him right now dancing in the middle of the club with no alcohol in his clutch, it possesses me in a way that I can't express. It's like my soul is alive, like I've woken up after a long, long sleep. I slowly walk towards him, and he holds out his hand, waiting for me to near it and take it. And I do. And then they start dancing, and basically a few minutes later, later, the song dies down, and in her head again, she's like, I want to hear his answer, even if it doesn't make much sense now that we're moving to the music. I grow the courage to ask anyway. Will you dance with me? For some reason, I still fear his rejection, the familiar response that always comes. He cups my round face, his fingers lost in my hair, and his lips curve very soft till he says, yes, love, I'll dance with you. And I just had to point out the fact that on page 178, Connor and Lo kissed, and it was everything. And then on page 208, we were basically like, I'm pretty sure we were on the boat at the time, and Lily and Lo were just talking and like remembering the fact that like when they were 7 years old, they used to like pretend that they were married all the time. And basically Lo is like, I'm remarrying you. And Lily's like, what? And he's like, someday we're going to have another wedding and it's going to blow our 7-year-old one out of the fucking water. And she's like, Lo, it's okay if it never happens. As long as we're together, it's enough. And he's like, 7-year-old Lily loved being married to me. I gave you 1 million piggyback rides. And she's like, you said that's what married people do. And he's like, someday I'm going to make it right again. Promises for me don't mean much, so I'm going to give you something better. And then like he hunches down and he basically like, gets her on her shoulders and he's like, fly away with me, Lily Calloway. And then she whispers, only if we make believe that we never ever have to grow up. And then he's like, there's a problem with that, love. And she's like, what's that? And he's like, our make-believes always turn out real. And then in his head, he's like, from our pretend weddings to our pretend relationship, in the end, it's all become reality. And I would love to never ever grow up with Lily Calloway. In one universe, we'll be young forever. And I just love how much like they're into like all of like the fan fiction and the marble and all of like the pretend stuff, like Harry Potter and like Tinkerbell and everything. Like it just plays so well into their relationship, and the way that it was like intertwined in this book in like every like cute moment that they had. I really wanted to like read this entire book out to you, but I obviously couldn't. And I just really liked that moment because it kind of explains as to like why Lily and Lo always are like, having piggyback rides. And it was because from when they were children, like, they used to do that because that's what married couples did. And they still do that as adults. And it was just, I don't know, I felt like there's so much like full circles in this book that I couldn't help but like smile at like every other page. I just really liked this little moment. So I'm just gonna like read it out to you. But on page 324, it said, I fell in love with Lo like a little girl opening her heart to magic. It always seemed surreal until the moment it became true. And I never pointed this out for any of the books that I read because I did find it in every single book where like you found the name of the book like in the actual book. Like I always love seeing that, like not even in just these books, like in general, I always love finding that. And I did find it in every single book that I read so far. But what I did enjoy is that on page 384, Lily was talking and in her head, she's like, I love how he makes me feel normal, how my brain isn't some vast, deep, filthy wasteland to him. In his eyes, I'm some kind of perfect. And first, it just made me smile, but then I also realized that that is the name of the epilogue. And for some reason, it just got me so excited to finally read the epilogue and like how all of that is going to like, tie together. And I thought that like, I don't know, the way that it was written into here, for some reason, it makes me really excited to see that as the title for the epilogue book. So whatever, I didn't really have a point in that, but I did want to, point it out anyway. And then on page 392, it was the moment when like Lo and Reich ended up getting like doused in alcohol because like the guys were pranking him, and Lo basically like ran upstairs like into the shower, and like Lily kind of like chases after him. And then like in Lo's head, he's like, I'm caught in a tornado of memories of Lily trying to drag me into the shower when I was hungover. My lips begin to rise. Back then I could wash myself fine, but I liked how Lily tried to help me. Her being that close meant more to me than she ever knew. She was my best friend, is my best friend. After she lathers the washcloth, she gently begins scrubbing my abs, and then her eyes flit up to mine for the first time. She pauses. What's so funny? And then he's like, I've always loved you, I can't stop staring at her. She's been through every piece of my life with me, and it's overwhelming and incomprehensible. The universe that I want to be is the only one where Lily walks through that shower door every time. She opens her mouth to speak, but emotions pummel her first. She wipes her eyes, which is silly and adorable since the bees of water roll down her cheek from the shower head. I have something in my eye, she mumbles, and he's like, sure. Then he draws her closer, kisses her right on the lips, and just holds her for a second. It's like embracing the happiest part of yourself. I can't quite explain what it feels like, but I'm certain it's somewhere near heaven. And on page 544, we're all the way at the end of the book, and we're at their wedding, and they're basically giving each other their vows. And Lily basically goes first, and she's like, if someone ever asks how long we've spent together, I'd say for as long as my mind stretches back. I can't tell you the day that I fell in love with you, because there wasn't a single day that I didn't. You have the purest part of my heart, and I'm certain that in every alternate universe, I'm always, always in love with you. And then Lo goes and he says, nearly every day of our lives, you've wondered one thing. You've wondered when your superpowers will kick in. And she's like, have they? And he's like, according to your timeline, they've been present as far as your mind stretches back. Lily Calloway, all this time, your superpower has been loving me, and you'll be happy to know that I'm not mortal. And she's like, you aren't? And he's like, no, because my superpower is the love that I have for you. It's out of this world, extraordinary, incomprehensible kind of love, and no one and nothing on this earth comes close to it. And I loved that so much, because throughout this entire book, and like even the previous books, like Lily was always waiting for like her superpowers to kick in. Like she's like, can I be invisible? Like, you know, can we have like telepathy or whatever you want to call it? Like they would go over and over of like, okay, let's fly. Like it was one of their biggest thing of like her wanting superpowers. And then the way that they like put that into their vows, I literally like, I can't even handle it. And then on page 558, it's literally the last sentence of this book, but I thought it was so freaking perfect. It was in Lo's point of view, and he's basically like, Lily and I, we may have started our relationship as pretend, but for as long as I can remember, our love has always been real. And I'm just like, that is literally the perfectest like last sentence you could have put for this book. And I don't know, it made me want to like cry forever. But basically that's about it. I feel like I can just go on and on about like everything that I really loved about this book, but I'm gonna just stop myself here because like, I don't know, whatever. If you've read it, then you know, and if you haven't, then you just should read it. But basically, I'm going to be reading Fuel the Fire and Long Way Down next, but I am ending this vlog here, and I will be starting these two books for my next vlog. So like I said at the beginning of this video, if you are watching this as they're coming out, then the vlog for these two books will be out next Friday. But if you know you're here a little bit later, then this might be out already. So make sure to check, you know, my entire channel to see if, you know, this is out yet so that you can watch it if you're interested. But basically, I'm excited to continue on with the world with, I'm pretty sure it's Connor's book next, so yay, this is gonna be exciting. But anyway, if you enjoyed watching this vlog, then please give it a thumbs up. If you're not currently subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. And I do somewhat apologize that this was probably like the worst vlog from this entire series that I'll be doing, only because, you know, I'm kind of still pretty sick and I didn't even give you guys like a lot of updates while I was reading these two books, but it's okay. You still got my thoughts. So I hope that you enjoyed watching it. And anyway, thank you for watching. And until next time, enjoy reading.